Hey, Chamber members, welcome to your Words of Wisdom podcast with me. I'm Alan, your marketing communications coordinator here at the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce. And today I'm joined by two guests. I think this is our first time having two, so that's cool. Introduce yourselves. Yeah.
Hey, everyone. I am Brooke Brinson.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chase Brinson. We own Ed and Ethel's Fine Jewelry.
I'm really excited for this. We're recording the day after the Emerging Leaders Conference, so the first time on the podcast, I can say congratulations, 40 Under 40 recipients. Two of them right here in the room, so that's cool, and then congratulations to everybody else that received it. I ask the first question of everybody, and because there's two of you, I want to see if your answers differ a little. What does success mean to you?
You want to take that first?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. So to me, success is when I have the capability, the freedom, and the willingness to really make all my decisions based on the fact that we only have one life here on earth. And I can really realize that, not in a scary way, not freaking myself out, but in a way of, what's really most important to me. And to me, that really comes down to relationships and prioritizing my relationships. And business-wise, to me, what we do in jewelry is really relationship-based. And personally, that's kind of the vehicle to give me that freedom and that capability to live my life that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually listened to the podcast quite a bit, and I knew this question was coming, so I've been able to put some thought to it. And I shared my thoughts with Brooke, but success to me it's forever changing, and it's a feeling. It's a feeling in your 20s. What success is going to feel totally different than when you're in your 30s, and then it'll feel different again as you get older. Mm. And for me, success also, there's professional success and personal success. Those are two drastically different things. And, you're always chasing that feeling. And it could be a small success, like, I had a really great day today at the store. I made an impact on somebody's life in a positive way today. I was able to help them through a negative situation. And, it's those momentary blips of success in the daily that I really chase that will keep me focused and keep me positive.
Mm. Yeah, a lot of where that question comes from is a friend of mine who, on his podcast, he talked about that from a theater sense, and it was always like, what was your Broadway? What was your thing that was, oh, this is what I'm going to need to be successful? Because a lot of people hit that, and it was like, great, what then? And so that was always my most fun, hearing people that have been on the show multiple times be like, yeah, success is different to me now. So with what you do on a day-to-day basis, how much of that is directly tied into like your driven of success? You're talking about relationships and building it there. You're talking about how it's shifting so often. How much of that changes based on how you're approaching the store at any given point?
How you're approaching the store? That's a good question. That's a really good question.
It is a great question. Alan has stumped us.
I'll sip my coffee while this happens from a chamber member, Space Rabbit.
Yeah. So, in our business, and people find this, they don't have a hard time believing it when I share that we help people celebrate some of the best moments in their lives, but we're also there with the people a lot of times when they're going through very tough situations. So, kind of depending on what has transpired, sometimes it's hard to keep a positive mental outlook on things. If you've, since in the short period of time we've been open, we've had several very good clients pass away, and that's hard. And that kind of builds, and you have relationships with them, their spouse, their children most of the time. So that makes it hard to keep that positive outlook. That's why with the success, if you can find incremental, like really positive, successful moments throughout the day, I think it helps with that. Mm-hmm. And it keeps you really focused.
Yeah. And for me, it really, what we do in our business helps me I feel like, be focused on life's most important things because we are with people in their highest of highs. They're getting engaged, they're getting married, their anniversaries, and their lowest of lows. Someone has passed away and they, have their jewelry and don't know what to do with it, or they want to pass it down to their kids or grandkids and we need to restore it. So for me, it really helps me keep focused on what's most important.
In that, because I personally struggle a lot separating my personal life and my professional life at times. When you're in an industry that is so focused on directly dealing with other people's personal things, how do you keep that separation for yourselves?
You can't. Like, full disclosure, you just can't.
You don't.
You can try, and I've been for a long time. I've tried really, really hard and set very strict, boundaries. Like, I wouldn't respond to emails after, a certain time at night. I wouldn't text customers back after a certain time of night. But now I've just adopted that as part of the lifestyle. These are, relationships that I have. If they text me at 9:00 at night, well, it's important to them, so it should be important to me. And it would be the same way, like if someone was helping us with something and I had a question and I texted them at 9:00 at night, well, it's on my mind for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I'm sure any married couple that owns a business together relates to this. The fact that we are together at home, and so if someone texts or if one of us has a thought about the business, we just say it. We talk about it at any given moment. So we have definitely had to try to limit that to an extent, just based on who we are as people. Chase is the type of person that we can be getting in the bed to go to sleep, and he'll have this really big thought, and he's totally great with talking about it right then. And I have to go, no, please write that down, because if we talk about that right now, I'm going to be up until 3 a.m. So
yeah, I'll get it out of my brain, put it out there in the world. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to bed. And then Brooke's up thinking about it for hours. I just need to get it out of my brain.
I'm that way too. Like, Rachel will say something and I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. And then she's like, good night. And then I'm up till 3 a.m. like doing a mock-up of my phone of like, oh, this could look like this and that. Yeah. With that, I think that's a really fun thing to kind of focus on too. We have that same relationship, Rachel and I, where no matter what happens, especially because so much of my work with her has to fully come after my clock ends here at the chamber. Right. How do you make sure that balance of sometimes there's the negative things to talk about? How do you make sure that doesn't boil over into too much of the personal of like, look, this is business and this has to be focused here. That doesn't mean I actually feel any negatively towards you in a personal manner or anything. It's just like, hey, I need this to be done different. I need this to change.
That is a very, very difficult question. And it's not one that there's like a clear defined answer to, because certain things, we've been open now almost 4 years, and there are certain things that we still are like, God, we're trying to figure this out. What's the best way? I mean, it's constantly changing and evolving. So the real answer is it's going to bleed. Especially Brooke and I have very big personalities for who we are independently. And we're very direct and we're strong-willed. And so it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially with each other, we're very vulnerable. And so it just kind of hurt somebody's feelings and keep it moving, And if it really hurts somebody's feeling, make sure you apologize. But, it all comes from that place of we have the same common goal. We want to grow our business. We want to be successful in that sense. And we want to have a great marriage and life together. So as long as we have that common understanding, even if it's momentary that somebody's feelings are hurt, we can usually move past it fairly quickly.
Yeah, and definitely constantly working on it, and our communication in general, because we definitely communicate two different ways.
Totally different ways.
And prior to owning our own business, we worked for the same company in the same role, but in two different locations where we both were technically the boss. So, that has been interesting, especially at first, to navigate that together. Yeah. But I will say, and I'm a big proponent of this, we have an awesome marriage counselor, and we didn't at first. And then
we didn't.
It was really the fact we owned the business together that made us realize, okay, we should have a marriage counselor here. Sometimes even our counselor will say, okay, let's not talk about the business for a bit. We'll talk about the business.
Honestly, we have he's the president of a group that we're in, and he recommended that we had a marriage, a therapist, counselor, whatever you want to call it. And I don't know, I would say within a couple weeks after that recommendation, we absolutely got one, and it makes a world of difference. And it's been a huge help with our communication, both professionally because we have that relationship, and personally. It's helped with a slew of different things. I'm very cut and dry, no emotion, whereas Brooke is highly emotional, and it has to be that feel good, like I'm having a good time. Let me do a vibe check. And I'm over here like, I don't care about your vibe. And this is just what needs to be done today. And here's the list, and let's start checking it off.
I recently had a conversation with Rachel where like she showed me some photos she had taken, and she was like, what do you think? And when I approach it, and I told her this afterwards because I realized I've never explained it. I was like, when I approach that, it's not that you, my wife, have taken this picture. I was like, I objectively am looking at it. If any other photographer had taken this picture, what is my opinion? And I was like, yeah, I don't like them. I don't think they're good. And I could tell immediately. And I was like, look, I love you to death, but this has nothing to do with it. I was like, objectively, if any other photographer did this, I'd have said it sucked. So I was like, I was not that mean. But I was like, I'm a big proponent in anything business of like, I will coddle a person. I will not coddle a business, because a business is not a nice or not thing. It is cut, dry, success, fail. People are separate from that, at least in my opinion. So because we've been talking a little bit, and I know most of the people that are listening are going to know what Ed and Ethel's is, will you explain what Ed and Ethel's is for those who have not heard of you before, and what people can find at your store?
Absolutely.
I think you should really explain the story of Ed and Ethel, where it came from.
Sure. So, well, first of all, just in case you don't know, we are a full-service jewelry store, and we got started really out of a negative situation. As far as when we started our business, we lost our jobs due to COVID, and we were, hanging out at home like everybody was at that point, and we were just thinking about what the heck are we going to do. And then actually the company we worked for decided to permanently close 2 of their locations here in Christiansburg, and it just kind of came together and was the opportunity that we had talked about doing when we were retired. We thought, well, one day we'll have our own business, but it'll be when we're retired from our careers, and it'll just be, fun. But it just came together. We are, and I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but we're Christians. And for us, it was really as if God just kept saying, look, it looks like all the doors are closed to this, but if you do the work, I'm going to open the next door. And that's just what kept happening. So now we've been open for a little over 3.5 years.
Almost 4 years.
Right. Yeah. It'll be 4 years in September. And when it comes to jewelry, we really do it all. So we have got all bridal, so engagement rings, wedding bands, anniversary gifts, all sorts of diamonds, fashion, gemstones, repair. We are a full service jewelry repair and restoration shop. We do a lot of that in-house. If we can't do it in-house, we have experts outside of our store that we partner with.
We also offer engraving.
Yep, we offer engraving. Yep, we do. And appraisals. Jewelry appraisals, very important for insurance purposes.
Pretty much anything you could think of that's jewelry related. It's because it encompasses such a wide swath of services and things that we offer in store. I think we have gifts for as inexpensive as I think $40, $29 even, I think. Yeah. And of course the sky is the limit from there, but it's, there's really not much we can't do. I mean, I dabble in a little bit of costume jewelry repair, but only for like really sentimental reasons, because it is expensive. It's still like getting a regular piece of jewelry repaired, but you can get, this piece of jewelry that your loved one had worn, loved, repaired, where most of the time costume just can't be fixed. Mm.
And that, talking about the price ranges that we offer, that kind of ties into where we got our name from. So Ed and Ethel were my grandparents who didn't have to be, weren't related to me and my sister, but chose to be a set of grandparents to us who were incredible. And they really just loved everybody that they came in contact with. They had more friends than most people have, oh my gosh, 10 people combined in their lifetime. They had more friends. They just were really wonderful and focused on the relationships in their lives. And so we wanted our business to emulate who they were and how they treated people and loved on people. And that really ties into that price range because, jewelry and jewelry stores can be intimidating and people can feel like I can't afford anything. I'm not going to go in there. But jewelry is very emotional. There's always a significant emotion tied to that purchase and that gift. And we want that to be available to everyone. So we try to have, price ranges like Chase said, even at Black Friday, our specials start at $5. So we, really try to have, whether it be that you have, a certain budget or whether it be that your budget is unlimited and you want something extravagant, we try to cater to everyone.
I think not in the exact same way, but I think it's a little similar of a way that the creative industry and specifically the jewelry retail industry have a shared thing that is when you're looking at that pricing and you're looking at things, there is a part of it that is a value add. It's not like a shirt where a shirt is going to cost that because it's a shirt and you're going to wear it. But there is an additional value added to it based on what it gives you. And it's a little different because like thinking about my wife with wedding photography, thinking about jewelry, the value add is an emotional add. It's not necessarily something that like another creative industry where you're making a graphic, it's adding a tangible monetary amount to that business. So talking a little about that price, what is something that you feel like consumers in particular don't necessarily see when they're looking at this? What is something that may be a misconception about the jewelry industry that you want to make sure people understand? Because I feel like going into it, I've never been a jewelry guy. I've never been in anything. So when I go to buy something, I'm very, very, very frugal about it. But when I go in there and Rachel sees something, I'm like, all right, fine. Yeah, I'm going to.
So I want to touch on how when you touch it and you see it, you feel it, it elicits an emotional response. Every piece of jewelry I have on now, when I touch it, I can remember that who gave it to me, the occasion, what it was for, and it elicits a positive emotional response. We've done several watch restorations recently where someone was giving it as a gift or they received it as a gift, and they're like, God, when it was finished and I picked it up, it looked just like it did when I was given it on my, the day of my wedding or when I retired or whatever the case may be. So that's the big thing with jewelry. That's the value add, I would say, is that emotion behind it. That's one thing I tell people or ask this question when people come in the store, because you don't buy jewelry every year. You don't buy it every week. What emotion do you want this gift to say? Is it a high school graduation? Is it a college graduation? Are you graduating with your master's, your PhD? Are you getting a promotion to big promotion, first promotion? What is it? And what's the emotion you want behind this gift? That's really my favorite part of our industry. I think it's fantastic.
I think a big misconception that happens a lot, and I don't think people even realize that they have this misconception, is because, like Chase was just saying, how emotional and important that, jewelry typically is to people. We think of it that way, and we think of it as items that normally we feel that way about. We don't wear every day, right? They're sitting in our house, they're sitting on a shelf. But because with jewelry, we're wearing it every day, there is upkeep and maintenance and repair that has to be done. And we see a lot that people come in and they have lost a stone or a prong has been, pulled back or something, and they're kind of shocked about that. But it's just because they don't really stop and think about, wait a minute, I'm wearing this every single day. This is just, materials that, make up this ring that can be damaged and can be worn and will be. So that's a big thing. I think that, if we could just get people to think about just a little bit more, and there's definitely preventative steps to take. For example, like we do free inspections and cleanings all the time. And we do that because we want people to come in and see us so we can make sure everything is good before something does happen, like you lose your center stone that was your grandma's or, something that's unreplaceable. And then it's also going to cost you less in the long run if you get ahead of, potential problems with your pieces.
is it real? Because I know that we see this in movies and other things all the time as jokes. Are the like, sorry, honey, I cheated diamonds? Like, is there an actual piece to that when someone comes in and is like, hey, what's your price range for this? I'm in trouble. Do you see those things?
Not so much anymore. Like when I first got in the industry a little over a decade ago, it was still like someone need, hey man, I like went fishing, or I, going to play golf, or I played golf a lot this summer, or whatever the case may be. Like you would see that a lot then, but we don't see that super often now. I think with COVID, that has kind of changed the landscape for a lot of people when it comes to quote unquote self-care. So I think now it's equally or evenly distributed, and people also respect it a lot more now. So if like I tell Brooke, hey, I'm going to play golf, she's like, all right, cool. And then a week later, she's like, hey, I'm going to do whatever. And she's like, all right, cool. Whereas before it was always like, well, if you do this, I do that. I felt like that's how our society was, but now it's almost like the blip, right? COVID is the blip.
Yep.
And, post blip now people are totally on board with like, yeah, it's cool, but whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I can think of one situation where we had someone come in and they just said, I screwed up and I need something really pretty. And it wasn't really a price thing. That's not really so much. That used to be a thing. It says in movies and jokes about, oh my gosh, if I screw up this big, I got to buy something this big, or price ranges of engagement rings. But yeah, it wasn't anything like that. But it was definitely, he had done something that he really wanted to make up for. So we helped him.
Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, I'm going to talk a little bit about that COVID aspect, but I also want to talk to y'all about your marketing and how you handle that in your events and things, because I really appreciate it. But we'll talk about that in just a second.
Virginia's own treasure trove of elegance and craftsmanship, where every piece tells a story as unique as the individuals who wear them. Ed & Ethel's is here to help you celebrate your story with jewelry. Ed & Ethel's Fine Jewelry is a cherished, family-owned and operated jewelry store that is proud to serve their community. Since the beginning, they've been dedicated to curating a collection of exquisite jewelry that reflects their commitment to quality and style. Guided by their passion for creating cherished moments, they're thankful to have fostered long-lasting relationships with their valued customers, aiming to always offer a warm and welcoming environment where everyone feels like part of their extended family. They'd love to help you with a free consultation on the jewelry you need for any life event. For more information, visit edandethels.com. That's edandethels.com. Back to the episode.
All right, we are back. So the first question I have after break is COVID. You opened September of 2020. How did that impact first the first few steps of actually getting the shop open and all of those pieces? But like, how did that affect your business model right at the top of things?
That is, looking back now, we didn't buy any merchandise. Well, we bought some merchandise by being able to see it, but for the most part,
only 2 collections.
Right.
The rest
for the most part was all digital or all
Yep.
virtual. So that impacted that standpoint.
Which is really funny, because now that we have, been in business and, figured this thing out a little bit, I almost never will buy jewelry for the store without seeing it, touching it, feeling it, thinking about it. Really a lot goes into it. So it is really funny. We had no choice then, and we didn't know what we know now anyway. Right. So it
we
was
were
fine,
also going like full bore. We were blind. We were naive. We were, I don't even know other words to use, but we were them. And it was just wild, man. Like it was just decision. All right, this doesn't work. All right, we've got to make, transition here. Like when we were doing our build out for our store, you couldn't get like nice cases. Like I won't say nice, but you couldn't get like custom built cases. Though just the time frame was too long from when we wanted to open, so we ended up with the cases we have now. Like our carpet, for example, we would have liked a lighter color gray. Wasn't an option.
Whatever they
because
had
of
available.
COVID. It's just whatever was in stock that we knew we could get.
We went to every building supply company locally, and we, if we had an idea for something in the store, we would literally go and we'd have to see how much of it each place had actually in stock. Right. And just work with whatever they had. So if they didn't have enough, we were like, okay, scratch that, move on to another idea.
Like the tile in our bathroom at the store, that tile was picked because that's what they had in stock.
That's what was there.
Of. I mean, our front, like little, I don't know, thresh or whatever, the guy who did our tile and carpet work was like, I've got some tile and enough to do this. And I was like, it looks great. Cool.
Great.
Go
Awesome.
for it. I mean, it was definitely different, man. I mean, looking back on it now, I'm like, holy cow. Like, I can't believe we literally decided the LLC was established in June of 20, and we literally found a space, occupied a space, renovated a space, all the merchandise, everything, in less than 90 days, basically. I mean,
very quick turnaround.
Had never owned our own business, had never done any of these things, and all of a sudden, boom, here we are.
I feel like that happened a lot during COVID because, like you said, people went from I'm gainfully employed to look, we're downsizing the company's moving in this direction. And it went from a lot of, for us too, it was like, this is an idea I'd had. I never thought I'd act on it because I always thought, oh, I don't need to, but you gotta.
Yeah.
And so I've really been impressed with the amount of businesses we've had join that started during COVID, and that all learned that first year, basically, all right, this is how we do business. And then after that first year, we're like, all right, this is how we do business.
Yes.
So when in that process, or was it for something from before, where you learned how to do all the marketing that you tend to do? Because I see so many events that you're doing. I see so many of those things. When did that aspect come in, or was that something you knew going into it? You were like, I want to be doing these things.
So that definitely came from a mentor of ours. We opened in September. This was spring of 21. And we were sort of at a place where we're like, okay, we've got to get the word out about our business, who we are and what we do, or we're not going to be here much longer. Because a big thing with COVID was the word of mouth, advertising that is normally there wasn't there nearly as much because people weren't out seeing each other. So we were, really kind of in a corner. And again, it's one of those decisions that looking back now, I'm like, how did we make that decision? Like, that was crazy, but it was just, thank goodness we did. It was we just somehow knew it was the right thing to do. And
it was monumental for our business. We were actually just discussing it, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, how by us, having this business coach and this group that we were members in, we took our business that was an infant at 6 months old and almost in 6 months turned it into a 5-year-old business.
Yeah.
Because of the marketing strategies, the different plans, how to structure things, how to, what information to capture, what information to not really focus on when you're capturing, merchandise, different things like that. That was phenomenal.
Yeah. And this mentor, our business coach, so that was the decision we made, was to join his group. And this is a group of jewelers. He's a jeweler himself. And so a lot of that, realizing how important marketing was and also becoming more event focused, came from him and that group of jewelers who luckily are, much older business wise than us. They've been in business a lot longer, all of them, and are so incredible to impart their wisdom and their failures to us, so we could
that's the other great thing
quicker.
about our industry. I'm sure it's the same to a degree in all industries, but especially in the jewelry industry, if you're not near each other, man, people will share. They will tell you anything and everything, and they'll go, I made this mistake and I'm sharing it with you, so that way hopefully you won't make the same mistake. Or this event worked really well for me. How can you make it your own and have it work just as well, if not better, for you? And then we talk. We know a few store owners that we talk to, I don't know, probably monthly, and we see at conferences several times a year. They're some of our best friends, and we just share all the time. I mean, we have group chats with some of them. Some of them are husband and wife, some just single owners. And, we'll text and carry on conversations about different things and how's life. And it just helps keep you focused as a small business owner.
Yeah, I talked to Christina recently on her episode, and it was about like making sure you're having those conversations with other people that may not be dealing with the same exact problem or may have dealt with something similar, but that way at least you're hearing something from an outside perspective, because it doesn't matter what you go into something, what your intention is. It matters the result and what happens. So hearing from anyone that can be like, oh yeah, I did that, don't do it, which is wild in my 30-year-old brain, because as a 20-year-old, anytime someone told me anything, I was like, yeah, okay, and do it my way anyway.
Right.
Yes.
That's another thing I want to say, really impressed with y'all's store, because I moved here during 2020. I did not know that you had not been in the area for 10 years. So the way that you approach the store and the way it is set up, it feels like you have been a mainstay in the area. Is any of that just the mindset of like, we're going to be here for a while, and so we're not going to just pretend like, hey, we're brand new, come new sale, new this, new that?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. And we don't like to do a lot of quote unquote sales. I think that's why we're so event driven. We don't want to feel like a big box. We worked in big box for years and years and years. That's really where we, that's how we met. I mean, so
and it was constantly,
it was 20% off this.
It was changing tags to raise the price, and now we're going to do 50% off. And, and we're just like, oh my gosh, this is just absurd.
It just doesn't feel
trickery,
genuine.
Right.
Right. Like if whatever price I put on the tag, like that is fair for everyone. That's, why do it any other way?
Mm-hmm.
Why not be transparent? Like, I can't do any better. This is it. And I'm sorry, but it's a good value. And if you research it, you'll find out it's a great value. Why have to worry about changing tags 4 times a year or 8 times a year, however many we did them, to be able to mark it up to mark it down? Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the same thing. I heard once from a business advisor that, especially when you're looking at your merchandise, it's better to do that approach, because if you always have a sale, when people come in, they think less of your value. They think, and so by saying, this is what I'm worth, this is what it's worth, there is more of that you actually seem more valuable in doing so. With your events, with everything that you're doing, is there any part of that on, the consumer side, not that I'm trying to say don't go spend full price and don't go do the things not in events, but is there anything like consumers can be on the lookout for that way it's like, okay, I'm kind of in the know? Do you do like newsletters or anything like that? Or is most of your marketing coming through social media and those channels?
Mostly social media, for sure.
We're trying to get better about a newsletter.
We are.
The newsletter is hard because you have to continuously keep coming up with content.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we'll have an intern before too long to help us with that.
Because so there's some growth in areas like that we have planned and are implementing for sure. But mainly social media.
That would probably be the best way.
Yeah, and we just, as soon as we, plan an event, we put it out there on Facebook and Instagram, and there's various things. We really do we try to do special events. So like this past weekend, we did the mini masterpiece event, kids custom pendants. So this is where kids came in. We had a whole little fun area set up with markers and paper and stencils, and they could draw a picture or they could write a message, and we are engraving that onto pendants for their moms for Mother's Day. So and in that, we did some special pricing for that. I don't have the normal price off the top of my head, but it was $50, per pendant. So we do events like that where we try to, do, some special event pricing, or something, or something fun, something extra, added kind of to the experience that we, that definitely on Facebook and Instagram for sure is where to follow us for those.
And with the store, with the things you do and with what you carry, and I'm just kind of going back to the fact that, again, yesterday at the Emerging Leaders Conference, one of the things we heard was failure happens to everybody, all that stuff. So has there been anything that you started to carry or anything that you started to do that you quickly were like, this is not the move, this is not what I should be doing? And how did you learn from that?
I wouldn't say quickly.
No,
I wouldn't say
I wouldn't
quick.
say. One of our biggest investments
Yep.
when we first opened turned out to not be well loved, to not be loved at all. And we understand why. We learned quickly, why that was. We definitely held on to that a little too long because it was such an investment. We were just really trying to make it work for our area and get people to be invested in it with us. But we had to realize we had to cut our losses, right? Like it's better, even, financially, right? If we've got this money tied up in this product that's not doing well, you've got to move on. You've got to just say, okay, look, I'm going to get out of it what I can. I'm going to take this loss, but in the end, I'm going to turn this into a positive because the money I get back out, I'm going to do something with that money that is a fresh idea, is a proven idea, something else. And so
it also changed our entire perspective. When we were with majors, it was, brands. Everything was branded this, branded that. Whereas at Ed and Ethel's is the brand. We carry one really well-known brand and another semi-well-known brand, and they do well.
And they also are brands that there are reasons that they are successful. It's not just really excellent marketing. They're really excellent products that are priced well. They're actually both family owned and ran still to this day. And so there are reasons for that. But otherwise, there are a lot of jewelry brands that are very successful that just aren't quite right for us. And in general, not typically super successful in our area to begin with.
And, it's also better, in my opinion, Brooke may feel differently about this, but for Ed and Ethel's to be the brand, I would say 90% of our engagement rings we make, we come in, we'll literally custom make Cinderella's glass slipper for your diamond. And it is specifically for that. It is not meant for any other diamond. It's not like we're trying to make one fit, Frankenstein and something together. It is just for that. And that, if you go pick up a branded something out of somewhere, it can't be that. It's got to be, it can fit 3 different stone sizes and 2 different stone shapes, so that way it's functional out of a case. But when we're the brand, and we can do that in 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Yeah, and I think that having, Ed and Ethel's as the brand, that we go and we hand pick the jewelry that we carry in our store, it also does come from the fact that we're very custom design driven. So like Chase said, almost all of our engagement rings we make from the ground up. Our wedding bands, we have a lot of fashion jewelry in the store that, we've handpicked, but we still make quite a bit of fashion jewelry custom.
And we even have a lot of completed stuff already in the store, even in the bridal category, just for, if people, it helps with inspiration, right? You still want to touch it, see it, feel it. But by having something completed in the store, us men were last minute creatures and be like, hey, I got this wild hair. I want to propose on Saturday and it's Thursday. So you have to have options available in the store. You can't just say, well, we just make everything, and we'd be cutting off a big segment of the consumers. But
well, when you first said that, I'm not going to lie, my thought went to you were making a ring that physically had Cinderella's slipper on it. And I was like, that's a very specific request. But
yeah.
Cool that's where you're going. How much of that custom work, take people kind of through the process of what that looks like?
So the beginning, as far as ideas, they can come from anywhere. So you can come to us with, 15 pictures that you've got off of Pinterest. You could come to us with, you could come to us with an idea in your head. You could describe it to us. You could come to us with, let's say, as an example, we had a woman who had, I don't even know how many stones, let's say 7 to 10, probably somewhere in there, different stones that had been passed down to her from various women in her life. Great-grandmother, aunt, just various women that were important to her. She had these stones. She had no idea what she wanted. She just said, they mean a lot to me. I would love to have them in one piece of jewelry that I could wear every day. So what did we do? We just got to work with discussing different styles, different widths, different, different setting types. And then we kind of drew out some things. We literally kind of drew out some things, rough, drawings.
Oh, napkin sketches. That's what I call them. They're a napkin sketch.
Sketches.
And from then, there you go to CAD, which is a computer drawing. And then the technology that some of our casting houses use, we can render those drawings so then it looks lifelike. You can really see what it's going to look like before it's made and before it's finished. And then from there, once we get a CAD approval, it's about 4 weeks. I'd say 4 weeks just to err on the side of caution, but can really make most anything happen. And from there, then you just pick up your ring or your necklace or whatever it is. And
yeah, I mean, I can speak to two things. One, that I went in, was looking at something for Rachel, and talked to you about it, Chase, and you pointed out, I got you a set of earrings. And you were like, if you wanted to, we can make that shape emulate what is on her engagement ring. And I was like, love that. Let's do that. And I mean, when I got it to her for Christmas, she was like, she really liked it because it matches and have those things. I'll also point out, I'm not going to say names for this one, just in case, but he said his son came in, got an engagement ring, got everything custom made, was really excited, proposed to his girlfriend, and then 2 days later went to the courthouse and got married.
That's awesome.
So I love those stories of like, you just, everything's going to be unique. And I like that there's that aspect. For you and for an industry that is so much of that relationship based, how many of your customers are brand new and how many are reoccurring, and how do you do that? Because I know in a lot of industries, it's much more expensive to get a new client in the door than it is or reoccurring. But there are also a lot of things I feel like in your industry, you can be reoccurring, but if it's so based on like emotional moments, there are only so many emotional moments. So how does that work?
So people find this strange, but everybody collects something, or they're into something. Some people are into hunting, golfing, fishing. Some are into collecting handbags, clothes. Some people are into jewelry, and that is their thing. So, I mean, we have some customers, this doesn't sound super crazy, but we have some customers who purchase monthly. That are, that's just their thing. That's what they like. That's what they do. They don't really do much else. They may travel or whatever, but they're not like extravagant hobbies aside from the jewelry. But
I would almost kind of break it down into like, there's 5 categories. So one is we do have people who love jewelry. And so we see them regularly, monthly, every couple months. Then we have purchasers who, it's not just the big occasions, but they come in, let's say every Christmas or every birthday, right? So we see them yearly for those occasions. Then we have some that we do see just really for the big moments. So we may, see them only, once every 5 years, let's say for those
like
big
if the birthday or
anniversary
ends in a
big
5
birthday.
or 0.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll see them then. And then we do have some customers who we see for engagement and wedding band purchases. And then either, let's say if they are, students at Virginia Tech, we may never see them again, right? Or maybe we'll see them, once every 10 to 15 years. They come back into town, and so they stop by, get their rings cleaned, just, say hello. And then, of course, we have our new clients, right? And for us, because we are so new, it is difficult to say as far as like what, really which is heavier, recurring or new, because we're still gaining market share and we're still putting our name out there. And I think due to several things, due to COVID, due to our sign is unfortunately not very readable. That's one thing that we're improving this year. And our location is great, but it's also a place that when you are pulling into the shopping center, you don't really look over and see us unless you're looking over there for a reason. So I think due to several things, we still have lots of customers who come in and go, oh my gosh, I didn't know you guys were here. Did you just get here? How long have you been here?
But I think we'll deal with that forever. I mean, think about us in our personal life. We don't really look for something or know that it's there until we have a need for it.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, like you said, sometimes we only see people on those big occasions, whether, it's a birthday or anniversary that ends in a 0 or a 5. And it might take 5-10 years before we have a good saturation of those people of those big occasion folks that are like, oh yeah, now I know you're here. Or if you need something repaired, then you go, jewelry repair near me. And that's how they find you.
I have one final question that is completely a personal one. I've never fully understood it. Why, when looking for a watch, you go to a jeweler. And that is entirely because I'm wearing an Apple Watch. My other watch is a $40 watch from Walmart. Part of why is watch is something that you find at a jewelry store. Is there anything in particular about that? Is there a part of, because I know, at least in terms of what I listen to at times, people will see some of the watch purchases as assets, not necessarily something they're like, this is something that will always hold its value. The Rolex is always going to be X amount of money. Is there part of that in the store strategy, or like, yeah?
So we actually have made the decision to not carry watches.
Okay.
Currently, we are thinking about getting into the pre-owned luxury market for watches, meaning like your Rolex tag, Omega, things like that.
And we can, as far as if, let's say we have a client who specifically is looking for a certain Rolex,
Right.
we have that capability now. So it's not that we're not into that at all. It's just that we're not focusing on it. We're not marketing it. It's just something that we can do on the rare occasion someone knows what they're looking for. But watches in general are hard due to several things. One, the market for them is a lot less today than it ever has been before because of smartwatches. Absolutely. There is still a market for them, while a lot smaller. There are still watch people out there who love watches. They collect them, they love them, and they always, will. But that's also hard as a business because with watches, any watch brand wants you to buy into the whole line, right? So it's a huge investment. And then it's, well, what do I carry? Well, how many do I carry?
Yeah. What ends up happening with watches is you'll have, let's say you have 40 watches in a case. There will be 5 that you'll sell over and over and over and over and over again. Well, the other 35 sit and they do nothing. So then you start clearancing them out, but then you have to bring in new styles to fill the case back. Well, and then next thing you know, you're back into the same thing where you're only selling these 5 watches over and over and over again. So the watch brands are, it's hard to be a partner with someone when you feel like you're having to sell the same 5 watches 15 times to cover your cost for the 40 you bought. So it's, that's the hard, really, from a business perspective. That's really, really difficult with watches. They also end up falling in the gray market quite a bit, especially on your non-luxury brands. So you end up competing with Amazon pricing and things of that nature. So that's why I think we're not even dead set on it. We may never carry watches. We just service them and take care of them in that way. But your luxury watches in the pre-owned market, that's the way to kind of circumnavigate that Amazon.com issue, right? I think that's the approach we'll take to that.
Yeah, which is fascinating. Like you were saying about Rolexes and about the asset portion and holding their value. And I mean, we could have a whole episode on that because it is just fascinating.
Yeah, I was watching a guy this week who was talking about it because he was like, I've got a Rolex because that's that investment. It's got an insurance policy. It's all of that. But I also have my Apple Watch because that is a write-off expense. It is a business tool in that regard. And so you can't write off an analog. And I was like, this is fascinating to me, but I'm going to take my Bolex that I got from, and be fine with it. It tells the time the same.
Love it.
Well, all right. So to let everybody know all the places they can find you, social media, website handle, all of that information.
Yeah. So we are just Ed and Ethel's Fine Jewelry on Facebook. Same as Instagram. I think our handle is just Ed and Ethel's. And our website is just www.edandethels.com.
We keep it pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Pretty straightforward all across the board.
Ed and Ethels. Everything's spelled out. No ampersand.
Good.
Yep. And our phone number is 540-382-8673. You can call us, but you can also text us. So if you ever have a question or a thought, just text us. It comes right to our
landline is 100% textable, which people think is crazy, but I mean, it's awesome. It is great.
So
I love it.
It'll send you that in a written form to your email or something, or
no, it's an app on our phone. And I don't know how it's done. Twilio's kind of a wild company. That's who powers a lot of these texting platforms, and they have found some way to host your landline number, and you can text from it.
And if you are a business owner, our customers really love this. I mean, they actually get oh, I can just text you? Oh, you're just going to text me instead of calling me? And then they'll say, I never answer phone calls from a number I don't know.
Mhm.
So I totally wouldn't have answered it. And then I probably wouldn't have listened to my voicemail.
Right.
So they're like, a text, I'll be right over.
Yeah,
so
we ran
that's
into
been
that
really great.
about 7 or 8 months after we opened, and we had called people to come pick up repair work and different things, and they were like, oh, they would end up calling us and be like, hey, is such and such ready? Yeah, we called you and left a voicemail on this date. And they would go back and be like, oh, well, you did. And there, so many people had just said, oh, well, I don't answer the phone if I don't recognize the number, and I don't check my voicemail very often. So it's like, text. And
Yeah.
we did some research, and I think it's 99% of all text messages are opened within a minute of being
Wow.
received.
That's awesome. I mean, I remember when you would text a landline, and I remember at one point doing it to my parents just to see, and got the weirdest voicemail of like, and it's like, what is going on? So that's really cool to see that that's changed. All right. Any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
I would just say that, to all of the business community, that please reach out to us for anything. If you have a thought about our business or us or advice, please come and tell us or call us. And same for you. If you want to meet and talk about ideas and, being a business here in Montgomery County, we are always open and willing and excited to network and get to know you.
Yeah. And I really just want to plug the Chamber. I mean, it's been an amazing, amazing organization to be a part of, especially for someone like myself. I'm a transplant. I've only lived here 4 years, so I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any affiliations here except for Brooke and her family. And, once we got, or especially at myself, when I got really involved with the Chamber, I felt very connected to the community. So that's any small business owner that may listen to this that isn't a member of the Chamber or is thinking about joining the Chamber, someone that's moving to the area that's new, really think about joining the Chamber, getting involved with it. And I mean, you'll just feel connected almost immediately. It's a very welcoming environment.
Really life-changing. And for us, it's definitely a key to our success. And here's the thing with us. We were in the Chamber for the first year. We almost didn't sign up again. So if you're somebody out there who you're like, I don't know, I just don't know what I'm getting out of it or what I'm giving to it, you should come and talk to us, because for us to go from we weren't even going to be a member of the Chamber to now we're telling you it's literally one of our biggest keys to success and has changed our lives. Clearly there is value in that. So please come talk to us if you ever feel like that, and we will get you plugged in and help you learn what we learned about how the Chamber is incredible.
I appreciate that, because I know sometimes I say this and I'm a Chamber employee, so there's like, all right, of course you're going to say it. But it was the same thing for me. I mean, I joined as a small business owner. I was a member for 3 years before I ever joined the staff. I transplant, didn't know anything. I love my in-laws a lot. They are very, introverted people. So like their network wasn't big, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And I've met some of my best friends from here. I've met businesses that I will be a lifelong contributor to. I really am impressed with the community aspect we have here. And that year-long thing, same exact thing. There is a part of Chamber membership that is investment, and just like your business, it's not going to always pay off in 1 year. So,
but it pays off big once you figure it out and you invest a little bit of time, a little bit of energy. Then next thing you know, you're like, whoa! It's your network grows, your business grows. It's awesome.
Well, one final thing that I want to ask you to kind of let audience know: what are some goals you have that listeners can either help you achieve or help hold you accountable on? If they see you out in public and it's like, hey, how's this going? Or what's something along those lines that we could have out in the world?
Let's see. Chase, you have anything?
No. I mean, I can't really think of a goal in that nature. I wish somebody'd tell me to smile more sometimes. I'm probably sitting somewhere looking like I'm super mad when I'm really not. I'm really just in my own little world, but I probably just am sitting over there looking real angry.
I had that conversation with someone with pictures yesterday, because a lot of what we do at Chamber events is like get pictures just of people interacting. And it's funny to go back and look at some of them, and it's like, I wasn't upset. That's how my face looks. But when you look at that picture, you're like, why are they so angry at the person they're interacting and networking with. Like, what's going on?
Sometimes I'll see it. I'll see a picture of me. I'll go, "Dang, Alan, why you do me like that, man? That's rough."
I've told someone, I'm like, I apologize to a couple people because I'm like, especially ribbon cuttings, whoever is having the ribbon cutting, I'm going to pick the pictures that make them look the best. But when you look at some of those others, you're like, hey, I have had at least one person I've sent a message to before posting, and I'm like, I'm real sorry, but this is the best picture of them. I'm real sorry.
Oh my goodness. One thing, this is perfect because Christina was on the last podcast. And so one thing is that we're working with Christina. We're just beginning to on our brand and being consistent on our messaging, and in particular with social media. Social media, I feel like as a business owner is such a roller coaster. It's so important, but it's tough. And it just feels like you're throwing stuff at a wall and you're hoping it sticks. And so we're really working on that, especially with consistency of posting and what we post. And so that's something you can certainly help hold us, but in particular me. That's my realm of our business too. And if you have any ideas or you have successes that you have figured out, I welcome any of those. Let's get coffee on me if you have any thoughts on that, and we'll talk it out.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for being here. Thank you for everybody listening. We'll be back soon with a new episode. In the meantime, make sure you go out, connect, engage, and prosper.